Are you wondering what are the best Canadian dividend stocks that you can buy at any time and make a lot of passive income and a lot of potential growth in the upcoming years? Well, in this video, I will share with you what are the top 5 Canadian dividend stocks that you can buy right now and hold forever to become a future millionaire. But first, how does I pick my pick knowing that there are more than 2,000 different stocks on the TSX market? The first thing that I've done is to watch at what is the company itself and look if I personally believe that the company is going to be still there in 50 years. So I wanted to make sure that the business model will still be sustainable on the long term. I also checked at who are the customers of the company and where are the activities of the company itself, and I finished my analysis by checking out what is the different financial metrics of the company to see if the company is in good financial health at the moment. However, keep in mind that it's impossible to know if a company will still be there in 20, 30 or 40 years apart from here, but there are still companies that have more possibilities to be there in that period. Now let's take a look at my pick number 1. The first stock that I've decided to include in my list is in the financial sector, and it is one of the members of the big 5 banks in Canada. My first pick is the bank TD with the ticker TD.TO. Of course, I had to include one financial companies in my top 5 because it is one of the most secure investment that you can do on the stock market. Do you know something that is more stable than banks? I can guarantee you that if banks goes to bankruptcy, losing your money invest in them will be the last of your problems. Anyways, knowing the fact that 30% of the total TSX market is represented by the financial sector, that's why I thought that including one of the big 5 banks would be a great idea. Let me explain why. First, as you probably know, TD as a bank is making the most and the biggest part of its money from the services that is offered to their customers. For example, through its personal, its commercial, and its home loans, but it's also making money from its credit cards and also its checking accounts and its saving accounts. Just last year, all these products and services have helped TD to generate more than $2 billion. This makes it one of the largest banks in North America with customers in Canada, the US, and also in the UK. Last year, it was actually considered as the 26th largest bank in the world, notably in front of RBC with a total of $1.3 trillion under asset management. And with the Morningstar fair value comparison, we can see that TD is currently the bank amongst the 3 biggest banks, which are TD, RBC, and BNS, with the lowest fair value price, which means that it's the most undervalued one. Also, with the financial sector, we've seen that in the past couple of months, the stocks and the general value of banks, for example, have dropped massively. You can see that it's the same for TD, which has lost a lot of value since the beginning of the year. But knowing the fact that the recession length on average about 11 to 14 months, TD should be able to regain some power and some growth. But as I told you, during that period and even in crisis time, banks are still going to be there and people will still have some needs with the banks. For the financial metrics of TD, we can see that this company has a massive valuation of over $150 billion with an excellent price to earnings ratio of about 10.66, which is quite lower compared to the financial average in the sector, which is about 13.50 on that side. That means that the company is currently undervalued. They also both have a great profit and operating margin and a great return on equity of about 15% at the moment. In terms of revenue, as I shared with you, the company is around $44 billion. And in the last quarter, they have been able to have a 4% increase in their revenue. And we can also see that as a great financial company, they have way more cash compared to their debt. And with a dividend yield of around 4% at the moment, that has a great payout ratio of only 40%. That means that the company is not using too much of their retained earnings to pay the dividends to their shareholders. And in terms of earnings, we can see that in the past year, TD has been able to beat each and every single time the prediction that were made for their earnings. And since we are currently the 24th of August when I'm recording this video, I predict that for the third quarter of 2022, they will be able to beat the earnings as well. For my second pick, I've went with another super important sector on the TSX market, which is the energy market. And I've picked the stock Enbridge with the ticker ENB.TO. Canada is presently the 5th largest producer of oil in the entire world. So when we think about energy in Canada, we think about many different quality companies. Companies like Pembina, TC, and Suncor are pretty popular over here. However, I went with Enbridge because I personally believe that it's the best one in the field. Indeed, with the world's largest pipeline transportation system in the world with more than 17,000 miles, Enbridge moves about 30% of the total crude oil in the North America, and Enbridge represents about 20% of the total natural gas that is consumed in the US. This makes it the 3rd largest natural gas utility by consumer count. However, some of you might still be wondering, hey Louis, but don't you think that if we want to buy stocks and hold them forever, buying an oil stock into 20 or 30 years from here will not be a good idea because all the renewable energy is pushing right now? And this is a great question that you could ask, but it's important to understand that with all the green energy that is coming in the next decade, Enbridge has already started this transition. In fact, it has the objective to cut its emission gas of 100% before 2035. So you know that the main business model of this company is the transformation and the distribution of natural gas all around North America. But since they have already started their transition towards the renewable energy, they currently produce enough energy to power more than 1 million houses. In terms of financial valuation, we can see that this company worth a massive $113 billion with a fair P ratio of about 23 at the moment, which is in the average of the utility sector that stands normally between 15 to 25. However, compared to TD, we can see that the operating and the profit margin are quite lower, but they have still been able to generate a massive revenue of $52 billion with an increase of 20% in the last quarter. However, we can see that the biggest con of this company is the fact that they sit on a little bit of cash compared to what is their debt, which is reflect on the super high payout ratio of more than 140%. However, they're proposing an insane dividend of more than 6% at the moment. But with this payout ratio, maybe in the future they will be forced to cut the dividend a little bit if they want to be sustainable on the long term. For my 3rd pick, I've decided to aim towards the telecom sector with the company Bell Canada with the ticker BCE. The telecommunication market in Canada is pretty interesting because it is actually a triopoly. It means that the sectors is basically divided between 3 big businesses, which are Bell, TELUS, and Rogers. On its side, Bell currently owns about 30% of the total market. It offers many different services like mobile and cell phone, television, and of course internet. In total, this company has over 6,000 different retail places all around the country. This could be a great stock to hold for life because this sector in particular has become through time an essential service. With all the different use of the technology nowadays, can you name one person that doesn't use at least one telephone or at least one television? And we can also see it by the price value of the company that hasn't lost a lot of value since the beginning of the year compared to other big companies like Shopify that has lost a ton of value. This is because even if we were in a recession or even in war, there will still be a massive demand for this product. So if you're looking for a great dividend stocks that is pretty stable and that offers a massive dividend in Canada, Bell could be a great option in that case. For the valuation measures of this company, we see that the company worth about $60 billion at the moment with a fair PE ratio of about 21, which is pretty much the same as the average telecom PE ratio. This company also have a great profit and operating margin of around 13 and 23% with a return on equity of about 13% as well. And we can see that this company has made about $23 billion of revenue with a slight increase of about 3% in the last quarter. And once again, the company doesn't have much cash compared to what is its debt, which is also reflecting the super high payout ratio of more than 114%. But just like Enbridge, they are offering a massive dividend close to 6%. For my 4th pick, I've decided to come back into the financial sector with an insurance company that is known by many people if you're watching my videos. I'm talking about the Canadian insurance company Manulife with the ticker MFC.TO. Manulife is currently the largest insurance company in Canada, the 2nd largest one in the North America, and the 5th one in the world. Obviously, as being an insurance company, Manulife is making the biggest part of their revenue from their insurance policies. For example, its life, its health, and its travel insurance combined with its mortgage protection are all some great options that are offered to their customers. However, they are still making a lot of money throughout their financial and investment products. A good example is all the different mutual funds that they are offering. Another interesting point about this company is the wide exposure that they have on the world. In fact, they are proposing their products and services in many different countries like Canada, the US, Europe, China, Hong Kong, Japan, and Indonesia. And you can see that even in those tumultuous times, they have not lost that much value compared to other big companies. For the financial metrics of this company, we can see that the company worth presently about $44 billion with a super low P ratio of only 6, which means that the stock is currently criminally underrated. And just like TD, the stock has an excellent profit and operating margin of about 24% and 33%, with a pretty good return on equity of about 13%. We can also see that this company has been making about $30 billion of revenue. And in terms of cash versus debt, they are pretty much even in that case. And they also have a massive dividend yield that is pretty close to 6% as well, but this time with a super low payout ratio of only 32%. And even if they don't have as much cash as TD, they are still using not that much of their retained earnings to pay the huge dividend that they are paying to their shareholders. For my last stock, I've decided to head towards the industrial sector this time with one of the companies that have been well performing since the beginning of the year. I've chose the Canadian National Railway Company with the ticker CNR.TO. This is a company that I haven't talked yet a lot on my channel, but it is still one of the greatest companies that you can find on the TSX market. While being the second largest country in the world in terms of territory, Canadian needs a way to move freely into their country, and this is one of the roles of CN. This company covers more than 20,000 miles all around North America from the three big coasts, so the Pacific, the Atlantic, and the Gulf of Mexico. Obviously, what CN is the most known for is their train services. They transport people and they transport materials, but they still have some trucking services that are offered for the supply chain. And of course, this is the largest railway company in Canada. I find it pretty interesting to invest in that kind of companies because it is also covering an essential need. As long as people will still live on the territory, there will still be a need for transportation. I don't see anytime soon some flying trains replacing the old good classic trains. And we can see that this is pretty much an essential services when we see what is the current price of the stock compared to what it was before the year. You can see that this stock has been very well performing compared to about 95% of the other stocks on the stock market. And finally, for the valuation measures of this company, we can see that this business worth about $110 billion, and it has a pretty fair PE ratio of about 22 at the moment. But what is really insane about this company is the profit and the operating margin that are around 33% and 45% for the operating margin. Even if we were in a pandemic and in a recession, they are continuing to have some great profit with their operations. And this has been reflected on the 25% of return on equity. Even if they have made a shy $15 billion in revenue, this still represents an increase of more than 20% compared to the last quarter. But once again, this company doesn't sit on a lot of cash compared to its debt, but we can see that this company is offering a quite lower dividend yield compared to the other companies of about 2%. That, however, has a super low payout ratio of only about 37%, which means that through time, maybe they will be able to also increase the dividend. Now that you've found what are the best Canadian dividend stocks that you can buy right now and hold forever, to diversify your portfolio, minimize the risk, and increase the portfolio performance, you might be wondering what are the best Canadian dividend ETFs to buy right now? To see the answer to this question, check out the video that is going to be right over here. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to join the North family by subscribing to the channel for only $0.0. And I will see you soon. Peace!